Picture this, it's 1971. An American naval fleet is sailing to threaten India. Suddenly, Soviet nuclear submarines surface, ready to defend it. That single moment cemented a friendship that has defined India's national security for half a century, arming it with everything from fighter jets to nuclear submarines. For decades, this was the bedrock of India's defense. The joint development of the BrahMos missile and the supply of Su 30 MKI fighters became symbols of a deep, almost unbreakable trust. So, what happens when your most reliable partner gets bogged down in a brutal, expensive war? With Russia's war in Ukraine now years old, this once solid alliance is facing its greatest test. Critical weapon deliveries to India are hitting delays, and the performance of Russian hardware on the Ukrainian battlefield has raised uncomfortable questions. On top of that, Moscow is getting cozier with Beijing, India's main strategic rival. Is Russia's legacy of support becoming a modern-day liability that could leave India dangerously exposed? Let's break it down. Can India really trust Russia in 2025? For more than half a century, the India-Russia relationship boiled down to one simple fact. When New Delhi needed weapons, Moscow picked up the phone. This wasn't just about business. It was a strategic necessity. During the Cold War, as India forged its path of non-alignment, the Soviet Union became its most dependable source for advanced military gear, acting as a crucial counterweight to Western powers who were often friendly with Pakistan. This dependency became part of the Indian military's DNA. Even today, after years of diversification, a significant portion of Indian military gear is still of Russian or Soviet origin. This includes the backbone of the Indian Air Force, the Sukhoi Su-30 MKE fighters, and the Army's main battle tanks, the T-72s and T-90s. The partnership went beyond sales, leading to joint research and co-production. The BrahMos cruise missile, a world-class weapon built by both nations, is a perfect example of how deep this cooperation went. This legacy continues with huge deals like the S-400 Triumph air defense system, a $5.43 billion agreement signed in 2018. The system is seen as one of the best in the world, capable of taking out everything from enemy jets to ballistic missiles. This historical reliance was built on a trust that Moscow would deliver when it mattered most, without the political strings that often came with Western weapons. But the world of 2025 is a very different place from 1971, and the foundations of that trust are beginning to shake. Then came the war in Ukraine. It's been a massive catalyst, exposing the first real cracks in this old friendship. The two pillars of the defense partnership, reliability and performance, are now under a microscope. First up, reliability. Russia's defense industry is working overtime to fuel its own war, meaning it is struggling to keep up with export promises. India is feeling this directly. Deliveries of key systems have been held up. While 3 of the 5 S-400 squadrons are in place, the final 2 have been delayed, with delivery not expected before 2026. Even more worrying, the war has created a huge bottleneck for spare parts. This raises serious questions about the readiness of India's Army, Navy, and Air Force. Second, there's the performance issue. The war in Ukraine has become a brutal real-world test for Russia's military tech, and the results are mixed at best. The widespread destruction of Russian tanks, the surprising vulnerability of its air defenses, and the spotty performance of its guided weapons have all been watched very closely in New Delhi. For a country that has built its military power around these same systems, seeing T-90 tanks on fire and advanced air defense systems destroyed is a huge red flag. If Russia's best gear is getting hammered in Ukraine, what does that say about India's confidence in these platforms against its own rivals? Perhaps the biggest long-term threat isn't the war itself, but its fallout. Specifically, Russia's deepening alignment with China. As Moscow becomes more isolated from the West, it is leaning more and more on Beijing for economic, diplomatic, and even technological support. This growing Russia-China axis is a massive strategic headache for India. For decades, India could count on Russia to be a neutral voice, or at least a balancing force, in its tense relationship with China. During past border clashes, Moscow often played a quiet but key role in calming tensions. But as Russia becomes more dependent on China, its ability to stay neutral is fading. New Delhi's nightmare scenario is a future conflict with China, where Russia is no longer a neutral friend, but an ally of its main opponent. This worry is growing amid reports of deeper military industrial links between Russia and China, which could strengthen China's military even further. While Russia maintains it is committed to its relationship with India, the strategic reality is getting harder to ignore. A weaker Russia isn't a global counterweight anymore. It's looking more and more like China's junior partner. This changes the entire game for India, making the old assumption of Russian support look incredibly shaky. The war has also shaken up the economic relationship, creating a double-edged sword. Seeing an opportunity in Western sanctions, India ramped up its purchases of discounted Russian crude oil. This was a smart, practical move by New Delhi, helping it control inflation and secure its energy supply at a favorable price. Bilateral trade shot up to over $65 billion in 2023 to 24, largely because of these oil deals. But this economic windfall has its own complications. The trade is heavily one-sided, with India buying far more than it sells to Russia. This has created a strange problem. Russia is now sitting on a large surplus of Indian rupees that it can't easily spend or convert, gumming up payment systems. It also reveals that the economic partnership is largely built on just defense and oil, lacking the breadth to weather major geopolitical storms. And then there's the constant risk of the West hitting Indian companies with secondary sanctions for doing business with Russia. India has managed to walk this tightrope so far, but it's a tricky balancing act. The oil trade, while a good deal for now, highlights a fundamental weakness: the lack of a deep, diverse economic partnership. So, how is India responding? It's not just sitting back and watching, it's accelerating a two-part strategy it had already started. Diversifying its military suppliers and pushing hard for homegrown weapons under its Atmanirbhar Bharat, or self-reliant India plan. First, diversification is clear in the numbers. Russia's once dominant share of India's arms imports is shrinking. New Delhi has been actively building defense ties with other nations, purchasing Rafale jets from France, Apache attack helicopters and P-8I maritime patrol aircraft from the US, and advanced systems from Israel are all part of this deliberate shift. The goal isn't to abandon Russia overnight, but to eliminate over-reliance on a single supplier. The second, and arguably more important, strategy is self-reliance. The Make in India initiative aims to turn the country from one of the world's biggest arms buyers into a defense production powerhouse. The government has poured money into the defense budget, setting a record of Rs 6.81 lakh crore for 2025-26, and mandated that 75% of new equipment spending must go to domestic companies. We are already seeing the results: the rollout of the locally designed and built LCA Tejas fighter jet, the launch of the aircraft carrier INS Vikrant, the development of the Prachyan combat helicopter, and successful tests of new artillery are all major achievements. India's defense exports are booming, hitting over Rs 23,000 crore in 2024 to 25. This is India's real endgame, building its own capabilities so that its security isn't held hostage by the politics of other nations. So, back to the big question: can India really trust Russia in 2025? The truth is, trust might be the wrong word. The relationship isn't dead, but it's undergoing a fundamental transformation, and there's no going back. The old days of sentimental, near-total dependence are over. It's being replaced by something far more transactional, guided by one thing: India's national interest. Russia will remain an important partner, mostly out of necessity. India can't just scrap the significant portion of its military hardware that comes from Russia. It will need spare parts and upgrades for years to come. The energy deals will continue as long as they make economic sense. And having a friendly Russia, even a weaker one, still gives India some diplomatic breathing room in a world increasingly defined by US China competition. But the core of India's strategy is crystal clear: hedge its bets, diversify its partners, and build at home. The wake up call from the Ukraine war and the Russia China alliance has only accelerated India's push for true strategic independence. The India Russia story isn't over, but a new chapter is being written. And this time, India is holding the pen.